Okay, I'm going to go ahead and beat the bad rep and the news cycle. I am a liar.
Okay.
I did not go to Bonnaroo 2021. I did not see Tyler, the Creator, or anyone perform. In fact, Hurricane Ida shortly canceled the performance of anyone right after I used my lying teeth. So I just want to come on air and apologize to all those I hurt by telling these lies. A lot of people expected snap stories of musical artists that I just simply did not provide. And I know that this is probably like a Fire Festival 2.0 kind of situation.
Definitely. I think there'll be documentaries about it,
Yeah.
Bonnaroo 2021.
I appreciate, though, that even though I'm in hot water, you're still going to do a podcast with me. Just like any good internet celebrity scandal. Bean Dad.
Exactly.
The rest. They still get a podcast.
Well, yeah. I mean, everybody gets a podcast. Come on.
Yeah, you can't deplatform someone from posting something like a podcast.
Like a podcast.
like just their own little podcast. So,
yeah, it's our own little cute little thing.
Well, speaking actually of Fire Festival 2.0, apparently that happened this weekend.
Really?
Have you heard anything about Elements Festival? Okay, so basically Bonnaroo got canceled this weekend because Hurricane Ida made the campgrounds unusable. And people were like, what? That's bullshit. And so this other smaller EDM festival swooped in and was like, hey, our festival's still on this weekend. Come on out. Come camp. Come buy some tickets. They're on sale right now. And basically, it was a nightmare. Like, people couldn't... Like, we're not hearing everything about it yet because, like, apparently the signal is so bad and people are, like, stranded there that they are not getting out to tell all of the horrors of the festival yet.
Oh, no.
But, like, some of the stories include, like, people waiting in line for 16 hours for campsites that are already full and being turned back. Artists can't get into their parking spots and are having to cancel shows because they literally can't get into the festival.
Right.
People are stuck in the mud everywhere. And the food vendors ran out on day 2.
So they made it a little bit farther than Firefest.
They did. They got to day 2, and they did have campgrounds, albeit super fucking muddy.
Yeah.
And most people gave up in body and spirit from trying to even approach all that bullshit. It sounds like.
That's unfortunate.
I feel like we're going to hear a lot more about it soon, but there's been some Twitter threads about it, and it kind of does make me grateful that the Bonnaroo people were like, we're not going to put you through this shit. Like, this is why we canceled. It's like, we didn't want this situation to happen. Oh. And they were pretty gracious. I still get... They put on an event where, like, Phoebe Bridgers and Sylvan Esso and Brittany Howard of Alabama Shakes, like, all did a concert, which is the weirdest mashup of artists, by the way, because, like, the first two... very energetic, very funky, very jazzy, and then Phoebe Bridgers is just about the most depressing artist that you can listen to right now. But it was a great show still. So
nice.
Still some music.
My trip did not get canceled.
Fantastic.
We well, not that your trip got canceled. You still had a good time though.
Yeah,
you went to the Airbnb. You said an Airbnb.
I went to Nashville, enjoyed an Airbnb with some friends.
Heck yeah!
Fucking great time. Oh, and you as well went on a trip, but everything went according to plan.
Well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, only thing that didn't go. We stayed at the White Buffalo Resort. It's where the White River and the Buffalo River meet, and they can join. And it's a really pretty river. And there's a resort there. And the only thing that didn't go according to plan was we planned on catching some big fish, some big trout. And we caught nothing. Oh. It was very sad.
That is so sad.
But it's fine. We still had a good time. We ate so much food. We brought some food home with us. And we played... do you know what the game Cornhole is?
No, I don't know what Cornhole is.
So it's like two different... It's like a board with a hole. About this yay big. I know the viewers can't see, but it's a good sized hole. It's not too big. And you put one of those boards across from each other about 20 feet apart, and you take
with the bags.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I do. I just have never called it cornhole. I guess
What do you call it? Because apparently there's 27 names for it.
There's like I swear we sell it, or at Target they sell it, and it's like a different name or something. It's like backyard something. I don't know, but I've always known it by that name, and I haven't played it enough to have a name.
It's a really fun game, especially when you start drinking.
Yeah.
So we played that, and it was really fun. I won a best 2 out of 3 game. Against my sister, so I felt pretty good.
There you go. You got to always stick it to the siblings when you can.
But yeah, we had a good time. We stayed in a really nice cabin, and we got back today actually. So you got back today as well? Didn't you?
Indeed.
Awesome.
So I imagine we're both pretty sapped.
Yeah. We are sapped. But I'm always down to talk about movies.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we watched Zero this week, huh? Or did you watch one?
Yeah, I watched Zero this week. I was too busy.
Yeah. Me neither, man. Fuck movies, am I right?
Fuck movie. This is the Fuck Movies podcast.
Fucking hate movies.
Only thing I did watch, which I think you did too. I don't know. Did you watch New Richard and Mortimer?
I did, and we can get into that.
Let's get into that.
Well, shit. I feel like, are we jumping into it too quickly? Are we?
Nah.
Man, okay, yeah.
Let's just do it.
Let's not be afraid.
Yeah.
Okay.
And let's issue a spoiler one. Well, let's do non-spoiler, then we'll do spoiler. Yeah.
Maybe like a season 5 spoiler-free overview. For the folks. Season 5. What do you think about it compared to other seasons?
So I think there have been better seasons. However, I still really like this season. I still think this season was on brand with Rick and Morty. I think it's a great collection to all the other seasons. I think I like season 4 just a little bit better than season 5. If we're going chronologically about, if last season held up to this season, I think season 4 was a bit better, but season 5 started and ended super strong. It's just a couple episodes in the middle that has really... put it in that gray area for me. But for the most part, I've really enjoyed season 5. I think they did a pretty good job. What did you think?
I think you can tell, they gave staff writers, a chance that hadn't gotten, the spotlight in previous seasons.
Oh, right, yeah. There's been a lot of different writers in this season.
Yeah, and I think it worked out sometimes. I do think when it came to the, sperm episode in the middle of the season, that was some fucking dog shit. Yeah. But, other than that, I always loved fresh voices in a writer's room. And this season, seemed to strike that healthy balance between, episodic... fun and serialized storytelling, and I really enjoyed it for that. Yeah. I would agree with you though. It's weird to say it is a weaker season than most, but it's still really great. I still love this show, and I'm very happy with how they've handled a lot of ongoing storylines, especially in this season. I feel like they've dealt with it in a way where they can I don't know, kind of reset again, which they've tried to do a few times, but it seems like they haven't fully committed to it. So I don't know if that's where they're headed. And maybe we should jump into spoilers.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and do it. We're going to talk about the season 5 finale. It's the 2-part finale of the season 5. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want spoilers, go ahead and skip to this timestamp. 19 minutes and 25 seconds. And we're getting into spoilers in 3, 2, 1. First part of the season finale. What'd you think about it?
I liked it.
I did too.
I think that I didn't expect it to still be separated into 2 different episodes. I thought it would be an hour-long
1 hour
special.
Long, yeah.
But I guess it was technically. They flow together, and you have to watch them back to back if you're really gonna fully enjoy them. It was good. It was really good. I think that the second episode was more of what I was expecting with this finale, and I think that it was a good setup for I don't know, I like the bird thing, I like the crows plot line. I think that was silly.
They've been obsessed with birds, I think, this entire season. Yeah. But yeah, the first part was really good. Really, I loved the writing of the first episode. I think the writing was pretty strong. with like the whole portal. The portal thing was so cool.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And then Morty fucking cutting off his own hand with the train.
Oh my God, yeah.
I really like that. And Rick's storyline with the crows is just really fucking funny to me. Also, the garbage goober, that is so fucking funny. That I love trash. Trash.
And he has like a doctorate at the end.
Yeah, he's like, you're a doctor.
I love trash.
Yeah.
I love when they let Justin Roiland just like have fun and like make up whatever random bullshit like he feels like saying, you know.
I love it. It's good.
I did think like the Morty storyline was good. I think that the random guy that he like rescued, like I felt like that was going to be more interesting than it actually ended up being. Like the setup was cool, and then the payoff was just kind of like, oh, I don't know. Like it felt very by the numbers for like a television series. Like, oh, good man who seemed very nice, actually bad. And I don't think that's been surprising.
I thought they were gonna do like a big flashback reveal to show like that he had some significance in the storyline and he would do more than he actually did. That's where I thought they were heading, at least.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, who's this guy? Like Rick's obviously hung out with him before, and I thought they were gonna show us or like hint towards something, but no, it was relatively just by the book kind of thing, which I was surprised.
What I think was the best part of this episode is it seemed like they were going somewhere really interesting with the ending, like with Rick determining that he had a really toxic thing going with Morty, which seemed like a pretty quick character change, but I guess they've always done character changes like that in episodes just like scattered about. And Rick this season has definitely been getting to this point, so I think it makes sense. And I was like, wow, I don't know where this is going to go next episode. Like, this is weird. Like, this is not something the show's dived into. And I think that's what I really liked about the second episode is it just picks up in that, albeit with, like, a very stylized and, like, funny, like, I guess Samurai Jack riff since the episode's called Rick Mirai Jack. But that was cool. It was just, like... I don't know. They didn't hold that for very long. They kind of discarded it really quickly, which I'm okay with because it got to some interesting stuff really quickly. I wouldn't have minded them being separated, maybe even into the next season. You know, like if the ending of episode 9 had been the season finale, and then we had picked it up with season 6 with this episode. But, like, this is also a really great way to end a season. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I really enjoyed the second episode. Like, what did you like about it?
I really liked the second episode with Evil Morty. I think what they've done with the Evil Morty character in this arc is so different from what I thought they would do, and so different from what the fans actually wanted. I think, as they shown in the season 4 train episode. Yeah. I loved it. And I actually had to go back and watch it a second time to, like, understand what was going on, because they kind of dump a lot of information on you, like, all at once with the finite curve, like, plot device. Which, now that I watched it and I understand it, I'm like, holy shit, that's fucking wild. That is so cool that he's just like, fuck you, I'm leaving this... I don't know what you would call it, dimension or timeline or something.
Well, I guess this construction of time that like is, or this construction of reality in which Rick is the smartest man across all universes. He's like, fuck it, I'm out. And like, honestly, I think that's what's the coolest part about the episode is like, he's not evil per se. He's like totally in the right. Like, this is like childish the way that like Rick and all versions of him have like created like a playground for themselves to be the smartest and like selectively pick the universes to like be the ones that they're the smartest and they have control over Morty's. And it was like, well, I see that there is a bit of commentary going on here, and I see like that, maybe our main characters are maybe not fully in the right, and even if this episode ends with Morty forgiving Rick and going with him, like maybe these changes are going to be, like huge and then like have seismic like ripples throughout effect, the show. And it was weird to see like Evil Morty like accomplish his goal, and then honestly feel pretty good for that character. Like, oh, yeah, nice. Like he wins, he gets his he gets his shit done, and it's like, oh, I feel good for him, and that's an interesting thing to see in a serialized show like this, because it's so easy to just make like a big bad who doesn't make any sense, which I don't think they're trying to make a lot of sense. Like, obviously, they were like, the dialogue can go down for this episode. I just want my thing. Right. But it works, It works
super well, yeah. I love that they made a couple jabs at it being a serialized episode. Yeah. But then they just made a couple jokes, and then they quit. Like the rest of the episode was serious, and so they brought back the Citadel theme at the end, which was fucking awesome. When he like shoots into the black hole he created, and they have like the choir version or whatever of that Citadel theme song. It was super cool, and I was like, wow, like they know how to do serialized episodes so freaking well. And I love that they only we only get like a couple per season, because when they do them, they're so good. They're bangers.
They build it up too. I mean, like that was the fun thing about this episode, is the payoffs. Like Rick's like backstory has been shown in bits and pieces before, and especially in this season, they finally like started hinting at like names and stuff you would need to know. And like for a show that a lot of people say shits on their like fan base, they've kind of given the fans everything they've wanted, and then also done it their own way too, which I very much respect. I don't know. Rick and Morty is just a really great show in my opinion, because they've always been great at balancing fan expectations and creative vision, and I respect the creators so much for that. No matter how toxic the fan base is, I will always like love this show. Like it was one of those shows that I found, and I just have taken a liking to, and I can't wait for season 6.
Yeah. The season 6 opener is gonna be good too, because they kind of ended on a cliffhanger. Yeah, with Rick and Morty being just out in the middle of nowhere with no portal gun. That's gonna be an interesting episode.
I guess I didn't think about that factor of it. Yeah. It's like they do have to like actually fucking get back. Yeah. Which it seems like part of the episode though was like, okay, let's get rid of the Evil Morty variable, and like let's deal with this whole council bullshit, because like we want to get to this episodic format that we love doing, and it's like well, I respect that, but like you've also written yourself into another like serialized like position, like where you have to address this in the next episode, and if you don't, I mean, you could play it off with jokes, like maybe, but
right. Well, they also, I mean, they kind of even wrote them like with how Morty like opens the golden portal. It's like, and it just ends right there with him going into it. It's very like, okay, are we gonna see more of that, or did it really end? I guess maybe we might know with the first episode of season 6, something might be explained,
or maybe like in season 8.
Season 8, it will randomly appear again. Yeah. I'd like to. I mean, they can do whatever the fuck they want. I think it'd be cool though if we had just like a episode where they kind of explored our version C-137 Rick and Morty exploring outside of that finite curve and seeing what the fuck else is out there, because it opens up new creative possibilities for episodes. I think so. Yeah. That would be really cool. But yeah, really like this episode.
Fuck yeah. Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty.
Copyright. Just in case. You never know.
You never know.
Before we get into the main topic today, there are another couple of talking points, I think, that are worth mentioning. Yeah. One of our biggest listeners of the show, Saxon, got married this weekend, and
good job.
Yeah, wow, congratulations. I know that you're probably not listening to the show. You're probably on like a honeymoon, which good for you. You don't need to be spending it listening to this podcast. You need to spend it being so happy, and I hope you are. Good, just great job, Saxon. I don't know.
Very good job.
Very good job. I don't know what to say when people get married like that. You know, it's just like
I just always like congratulations. Have a good time.
You know,
I guess.
I hope have a good time for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Which, you know, that's a heavy concept to me right now, but you got married, so you know what you're doing. So I trust you, buddy. And that's I don't know. I hope that sounded really positive because I meant it that way.
No, we are proud of you, Saxon. We are your your podcasting fathers, so to speak.
Indeed.
Very proud.
You know so much more about film than us too. So please
this is true.
Continue to teach us.
Yes.
From an even more wizened position.
Yeah.
And then I guess kind of a sadder note from marriage. Michael K. Williams, star of The Wire and Boardwalk Empire, probably his most famous roles, passed away recently. They found him in his New York apartment, and it's just, damn, it's a real shame. He was like only 54. Very, very, very talented man. I personally, like, I've not completed The Wire, but the character of Omar on that show is an incredible, like, very well developed character and very positive for not only black representation but gay representation on TV. And then on top of that, he's got one of the funniest episodes of Community, where they do a Law and Order parody, and I'll never forget, he plays the, like, biology teacher, and it's so classic. He gave his all to, like, every role he was in, and I mean, you just hate to see, like, pure talent like this go, you know.
Very sad. I haven't watched The Wire or Boardwalk Empire, but I do know him from, you know, he was in Inherent Vice, you know, 12 Years a Slave, and The Road, which I haven't watched The Road yet, but he's like on some promotional images, I think, for that film.
Yeah.
Some like, if you look up the movie, you'll see it.
I think I did watch his scene. Like, I haven't seen The Road movie. I loved the book though, and I watched his scene. He just, like, fucking kills it in everything he's in, or, you know, he was in, and I mean, this is just a real shame, and I don't know. It was worth mentioning on the podcast when, like, talent like that just fades. So, don't mean to sound like such a huge bummer in the middle of the episode, but, like, it's good to acknowledge, you know, artists and their time with us. And speaking of which, I guess we should talk about some art, because we didn't watch any new movies, but we did ask you guys on Twitter what topic you would like to see. We had a few cooked up, and you said that you wanted to see our episode idea about rotten movies. And basically our concept here is that we are going to examine some movies that have a rotten tomato score, but that we like, and we think that got short shrift. But also, on the opposite end, we might talk about some movies that suck butt, but have a pretty high Rotten Tomato score. So,
and in this, we might critique Rotten Tomatoes themselves and how how their website is managed, I guess, so to speak.
Who knows where this shit might go? Yeah, you know, let's get fucking nuts.
Let's get into it. Let's start with our viewer or listener replies on Twitter. First off, we have Samuel Tyler said, in an era of shaky live-action Disney attempts, I would like to direct your attention to Hook with a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes. It might be an overindulgent mess at times, but it has more heart than most recent revisits of classic fairy tales, and no one is forced to sing Nirvana.
I like that little jab at Pan in there.
I remember watching Hook when I was younger and thinking that it was probably the best live-action Peter Pan movie we ever got.
Yeah.
There's been a few, but the Hook is normally the one you always hear about, right? I feel like Hook is a good, you know, or at least decent live-action version of Peter Pan. Like, I love Peter Pan, though, so...
Yeah, and I mean, Robin Williams, like, has got to be charming in that movie. I'm going to be honest, I've never seen Hook.
Really?
I know it's a Spielberg movie, and I love Robin Williams, and honestly, Peter Pan is just a really great character to explore in live action, and I mean, I'd be surprised if I walked away, with a gross feeling, because it looks like it's a pretty sappy movie. Like, I've seen that scene where they imagine like the food and everything.
Yeah.
That's really cute.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I think everything about it's pretty. Well, I guess magical would be the word. It's a magical story. It's a magical movie. I love Hook. I think it's great. I'm very surprised. I didn't know that it had a 29%. Like, that's almost egregious.
Yeah, people shit on it. It's one of those Spielberg movies that get brought up as like one of his worst. So
why? I don't get it.
I don't know. Well, I guess when you have so many good ones, like that's
I guess the mediocre ones can.
Which, I mean, speaking of Spielberg, then. Let's scroll down on that there list.
Oh, yeah.
And Sam fairly pointed out, on the opposite end of this, Indiana Jones, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, is sitting with a comfortable 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that movie is nigh unwatchable. So I feel like that's strange, because when Kingdom of the Crystal Skull gets brought up in like any kind of discourse, it's usually for people to shit on it, like to a massive degree. I haven't watched it in a really long time. In fact, I don't think I've watched it since I saw it in theaters.
Like, oh, really?
And I saw it like 3 times in theaters, because when I was 12, I mean that was the shit.
Was the shit for me.
Yeah, it was incredible. Like, well, I mean, the first 3 movies especially, which were so mind-blowing to me, and then this 4th one comes out, and I'm like, oh my god!
Yeah.
And it was kind of predictive of like how the new Star Wars sequels would be, where like get old actors to reprise their beloved roles and like show up. Well, it started the trend of Harrison Ford anyway being old, and the audience members being like, it's Harrison Ford!
Yeah. Yeah, man, I don't know. I was so hyped to see Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and when I was a kid, I remember liking it. But even when I was younger, I was thinking like, I'd much rather go watch The Last Crusade about 12 times again before I watch this again, because I think the alien part of it is just so hokey. It's corny, really.
Pretty fucking dumb.
Pretty fucking dumb. Yeah. The warehouse scene at the beginning is pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
The warehouse, that opening, the cold open or whatever it was.
They get a lot of moments right. And I think that what happened here was maybe like Phantom Menace effect, because Phantom Menace, when that movie first came out, a lot of great reviews. Like Roger Ebert gave it a 4 out of 4. Which
shit.
he was not known to do too much. Like every movie he did that for, he wrote in his book great movies. He later changed the score, I think, for the Phantom Menace, but like that was a lot of critics. Like they saw it, they wanted to be enchanted by it, they were, because they were just enough like right notes. And then later examination will show like, a lot of emotional manipulation hiding like a pretty weak plot. And I think that's what happened with Crystal Skull and the critics anyway. Is like people just really wanted to like it. I want to like it actively still, like
same, yeah.
I want to go back and rewatch it and be like, well, we all fucked up with this one.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting to see Spider-Man 3 again too, and hopefully feel that gratification there. I want to bad. Spider-Man 2 made me feel like it should be good, right? They set everything up. Please don't have him snap his fingers and be an emo.
It's too late, Isaac. He already is emo.
If I could turn back time.
Moving on, Isaac Granado said, it's a kid's movie, for goodness sakes. At least the audience knew what was up. And he has the screen cap for The Mighty Ducks, 1992, with a 21% critics rating and a 65% audience score. And here's the crazy thing. This will probably get into how fucked up their rating system is. They've got 29 critic reviews for The Mighty Ducks. And there are 250,000+ audience reviews. That's in at a 65%. And I feel like if more critics reviewed that movie, that score might go up. Because, I mean... Alright, Facebook. I remember watching The Mighty Ducks. Excuse me. When I was younger as well. I had it on VHS. And I feel like I remember it not being that bad. Like, it's just a hockey movie, you know?
It's talked about in a pretty, like, warm way, usually. I mean, like...
everybody talks...
anyone who grew up with it, like, I've usually heard great things. I've never seen it, also. Like, this is just kind of one that missed my childhood. There was, like, a weird animated show that I remember with, like, the lasers and shit. That was fucking weird, but... it sounds like the original is just like a feel-good, like, underdog sports movie. And honestly, I mean, if people like that, and I mean, it was pretty popular, that format of film at that time. Like, I don't see why critics would shit on it, like, a lot, you know?
Yeah, I don't... Sorry, I was looking it up to make sure it was the right one I was thinking of, and yeah, it is. It's the live action underdog sports movie. Like, you know, I don't know. Typically, those get pretty good reviews, I feel like.
And I mean, the IMDb score is a little bit more reasonable. It's a 6.6 out of 10. So I think it was just like enough critics in those 29 that were polled. I mean, like, didn't like it, you know. And I feel like in that instance, like, Rotten Tomatoes is just not really representing, like, what this movie should be sitting at, which should probably be about closer to, like, 60%.
60, yeah, it looks like. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. But yeah, I definitely remember that movie. Good take there, Isaac. Isaac Granado.
Yeah, not me.
Also good take, Isaac, you know.
Oh, thank you.
Next we have Blake. He said Blake Ferris, right? Is his last name?
Indeed.
He said Tron Legacy, 51% critic score, 63% audience. It's a stunning movie with killer soundtrack. That's a fine sequel to the original. Yes, I agree. 100 times, I agree. Tron Legacy is one of the movies that I had written down that I was going to talk about on this episode regardless. It's fucking insane to me that critics ripped this apart as much as they did. Like, I don't know. Maybe their problem was with, like, the story.
Yeah, I think that was the case. I think a lot of people had a problem with, like, Jeff Bridges, like, being, like, young CGI. Like, I remember hearing a lot of complaints about that.
Yeah, but still, for 2010...
Yeah, pretty great looking.
Pretty good, yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't, you know, dog on it that much. I am curious,
and also the Daft Punk score. Are you kidding me?
The fucking Daft Punk score.
That shit slaps. That alone should have it at, like, a good score. And so, yeah, it has, like, a 51% on Rotten Tomatoes. So
with 247 reviews.
I think that, you know, I think this movie gets short shrift. I haven't watched it in a while, so maybe, like, I just have nostalgia glasses on. But I remember it being a very visually dazzling movie in the theaters. And also, just a movie that, like, blows away the original, like... Watching the original Tron is such a slog. Like, the effects are, you know, dated now, and the story is just such a slow.
It's such a product of its time, and the fact that, like, yes, it looked amazing when it came out, and yes, the story was pretty suspenseful when it came out. But now watching it is really just like, oh god, well, this is really, really boring. Tron Legacy, though, I feel like Tron Legacy is what the original Tron wanted to be, though, because, like, it's so grand, and, like, I recently rewatched it just a few months ago, and it still holds up. Like, all the effects hold up. Maybe Jeff Bridges doesn't hold up as much as anymore, but everything else looks absolutely stunning, and I don't know. The story doesn't even bother me that bad. I still think the story is pretty good. Like, I don't know, man. And the score, I can't talk about it enough. Like, it's the perfect score fitted for its movie. Like, that score embodies, you know, encapsulates the entire film just in the score. It's absolutely brilliant.
The Daft Punk really fucking brought their all to it.
Yeah.
And I was blown away by that movie at the time. Like, I would love to revisit it, and I would love to confirm once again that critics really got that one wrong.
Yeah.
I will say I have another couple of picks that really surprised me that I don't think I have too much to say. You may be surprised to hear this one. The Sandlot has a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. Look it up right now.
Okay, let's go.
But that is one of the most beloved movies of all fucking time. Like, any kid who grew up in the 90s loves The Sandlot. Like, I watched it at school, like, probably, like, 3 times at least. And it's just such a heartwarming, harmless, like, movie. And, yeah, pull up the Rotten Tomatoes score. Watch this, people. I can't remember the exact numbers, so Casey still... Oh, it did have a... What?
What?
I swear to God, earlier I saw today that it had, like, a 49%.
Oh, you might have been looking at the anniversary edition, maybe, or release or whatever.
Maybe. Man, well, now I feel like a liar again.
It's sitting at a 64%, guys.
Okay, it's safe. The Sandlot's safe. I just didn't... What? Who lied to me? How did I find out such false information? Yeah, the Sandlot's A-okay. Sorry, guys. So, false alarm. We don't have to kill anyone today. So look up my next movie then.
Okay.
I heard that Knight's Tale had a rotten score.
I think it does. A Knight's Tale. Heath
Okay,
Ledger.
There we go. I need some vindication here.
Yeah.
It's a 59%, so it's barely rotten. So I might just be talking out my ass here, like, oh, critics hated it, blah, blah, blah. They clearly didn't hate it, but, like, the fact that it's rotten, like, when people look it up and they're trying to determine, like, is this a movie worth my time? And the first thing they're going to see is, like, that green little splat. That pisses me off. Because Knight's Tale is, I mean, it's maybe not the best movie ever made, per se. But, like, Heath Ledger is so charming in that movie. All of the actors do a really great job. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy, like, the way they bring modern music into that setting, and I guess maybe a lot of critics just didn't vibe with that. Right. Like, maybe it was, like, pick a lane, like, either do, like, a medieval movie or do, like, a more modern, like, satire. And I liked the mix. Like, I feel like it's daringness to do both, even though it can be silly at times. Mm-hmm. It's part of the charm of the movie, and, like, I think Knight's Tale slaps, and I can't understand why a 59%.
Yeah,
it is enough to give this movie a bad rap if you look it up on the website. Like, I think that's my biggest problem with Rotten Tomatoes, is, like, even if you have a majority of positive reviews, if it's not a 60-40 majority, you're going to be labeled as a bad movie. Yeah. And people who blindly just look at movie scores like that are going to not touch it.
Yeah.
It's a way to, like, alienate people from a film generations from now, because, I mean, we do depend on review scores a lot more these days. Like, people really like being told what their opinion should be. And
people also don't like wasting their time, and I feel like, Rotten Tomatoes, despite, I don't like it, but they've got this to where when I lived back in Marshall, we had DirecTV. When we first got DirecTV, my mom got me this, like, movie channel package. So, like, I had 100 channels playing movies all day. Any movie you could think of, if I looked it up, it was going to be playing within the next 48 hours, so I'd set it to record. And if you, like, clicked on the information about the movie, it would give you the Rotten Tomatoes symbol with the score right next to it. It would have the critic score and the audience score. It would have the tomato and the popcorn bucket. And there'd be movies that I'd heard that were really good that I wanted to watch, and it would have a rotten score and, like, an bad audience score. And I feel like a couple times it stopped me from watching some movies, and I wish that's not the case. Now I don't even pay attention to Rotten Tomatoes half the time. It is interesting for me to go on Rotten Tomatoes sometimes and look and see what's going on and see, because Rotten Tomatoes influences opinions a lot. I feel like, because if you see the score going into the movie, you're expecting that, and you're not really going in with a clear mind, open mind, I guess you could say. Which, it's smart what they've done, but I wish they'd fucking get rid of it. It's just seeing that putrid, rotten green splatter. It's just, I don't know, it makes me mad.
I will say, like, it reflects, like, the lack of open-mindedness from a lot of critics. Like, there's a lot of, like, snobs that control this like meter, and especially with movies with less reviews, like, indie movies, they really live and die, like, off of, like, critic reviews. Like, they can get eaten up, and Rotten Tomatoes is, like, a big contributor to, like, these movies being like maybe pushed down in the cultural zeitgeist. I do see the value though of having a website where users can't just review bomb shit.
Yeah.
I think if you pull up like The Last Jedi, like I think that's a movie where there's there's been some divine intervention from the critics because the audience fucking review bombed the shit out of Last Jedi.
Sitting at a 42% with 100,000 ratings. And
I know the IMDb score is probably a better representation of like what Last Jedi needs to sit at. I mean, it has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I do like Last Jedi. I don't know that it should score that high, and I think that's always been the problem with the system is even if a movie is like really good, like just because more people like it, it has a higher score, that doesn't necessarily reflect the quality of the movie. It just reflects like general likability.
Yeah.
And
I feel like the Rotten Tomatoes system also boils down film to its basic, to a really basic two components like film good or film bad. And it's like a film can be bad in some areas, but really good in some areas. And for some people, the really good areas is what shines through, so they end up liking it and they can ignore the bad. That's my main problem with Rotten Tomatoes. You see these two motherfucking symbols here, and that's all that it's breaking film down to a very simple understanding, and I feel that that's very wrong.
I think I think that the more I grow with my appreciation of like art in general, the more I think maybe we wouldn't be so in the wrong to just leave scores behind. Like it means that people would actually have to digest content if they're reading like a review, but like movies can't just be summed up into like a point system. Like I use Letterboxd that way because I mean it's right there. It's like you can give movies stars, and I do want to catalog like in that moment like what I think a star rating would be, but more and more I feel silly like giving movies stars. Like I'm like, well, I liked it a certain amount, but I don't think that like a 10-point scale really like sums up everything about a movie, and the fact that people live and die off of like a review score. I mean, just check out like in the music scene right now, Anthony Fantano is under some heavy fire because he only gave Donda like a 7, and it's like he liked the album. You heard his complaints, you heard what he likes. I mean, and he's very well stated. But what people are doing is they're clicking on the video, and then they're clicking on the end of the video to see what the number is, and then they're gone. And that's the problem with this whole system is that we've completely fed it, like IGN's fed it, Rotten Tomatoes fed it, Cinema Scores fed it, IMDb's fed it. Like we just can't see a world where we like just write about and talk about film without like some fucking arbitrary number.
I feel like the score is supposed to just be, it's supposed to tack onto the review. Like the review is what I look for, and then the star rating or the number or percentage, whatever, is just like also supplement there as well. I feel like I feel like people who just give a movie a star rating or a percentage and don't explain themselves, I fucking hate that. But if you've got like, even on Letterboxd, when you go through and somebody's rated something 2 stars and you read the review, there's some things that they like about it, and they'll explain their reasoning. So I think together it's good. I think the way Rotten Tomatoes has it, with just a score right in front of you for you to see, and that's all you got to think about is the score. I mean, fucking critics exist for a reason, not just to slap numbers on movies. Like, it is arbitrary. It is kind of silly.
Yeah.
To boil it down to that.
Well, and I feel like it hurts like a lot of like good movies. Like I did take note of some movies that I actually really love that have rotten tomato scores. The first one that I discovered being Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which is a bit of an artsier movie. It has, well, not artsier, but like it involves heavy drug use in the movie, and they go through efforts to show what it's like for those characters to experience those sensations that they would be. And I mean, like, if you do even a lick of research about Hunter S. Thompson, this should not surprise you at all. And if you read the source material, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, I mean, it's written from that perspective. Right. And so I think what happened is, like, a lot of critics went into that movie and they weren't prepared for, like, a more jarring, like, narrative structure, like something a bit more incoherent because the narrator is, like, unreliable. But this is an instance where I'm like, the audience score definitely has it right. Like, this is a beloved classic. Like, this is often considered Terry Gilliam's, like, magnum opus up there with Brazil and 12 Monkeys. And yet it has a rotten, like, review score. Yeah. And that's the thing, is I don't even think Rotten Tomatoes reflects, like, even the contemporary, like, view of a movie when it comes out. Like, I'm sure most critics these days would probably agree that Fear and Loathing is, like, a really great movie. But, like, I think even at the time that it was released, you know, most people would have agreed that it's a really great movie. And I think that this website is harmful in the way that, like, when you try and look back on what people think, you're not actually going to see fully what they thought or what their complaints were. You're just looking at a number because, I mean, how many people are going to go through, like, 70 reviews and see, like, all the rotten ones and read them, like, to completion.
I was about to say, I'm like, before people started tagging us, we know you can scroll down and read reviews, but still,
people don't do that.
People won't. People are not going to do that. Like, I'll do it, but film buffs will do it, but the average viewer that makes or breaks a box office of a movie is going to look at that front page, that front headline, and click off without ever wondering, anything else about it. Which is why, and just for reference, this Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas has an 89% audience score with 250,000 plus reviews. And then the critics' reviews, there's only 70 reviews, and it's sitting at a rotten 50%. Like,
which is pretty low, Like,
that's just ridiculous. Like, and I get that there's some older movies sit at like 100% but only have like 6 critic reviews. I wish they would update their system and get more critics to review it, at least. If they're going to have this sort of system, like, you should have at least 100 critics review every major entry, at least. You don't got to worry about B movies or stuff like that.
Increase your goddamn sample size.
Exactly.
I mean, this is the case with any scientific experiment. It's like, if you don't have enough of a sample size, the results aren't going to be accurate to, like, what people think. And I mean,
you're telling me 70. This movie came out in 98, and you only got 70 critic reviews. There are probably 70 critics that are licensed in one city in America. Like, come on, like, there's thousands of critics you can pull from. I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't really get it either. I feel like if you want to present another movie before I...
I do have one. This is one that a lot of people might not know, but...
Emilio Estevez's second feature on our list today. He's using Mighty Ducks, too. And this is...
Young Guns. Young Guns is a Western about Billy the Kid. It's sort of a fictionalized... telling. Billy the Kid basically is, like, rescued off the streets by this guy who takes in a bunch of outlaws, and he's basically what Dutch is in Red Dead Redemption. He takes, like, a band of misfits and he teaches them, like, how to read, how to do good honest work, and tries to keep them out of they still do kind of illegal stuff, but he keeps them out of big trouble. But then one day he gets killed by a gang of like outlaws. So they become outlaws, and they ride to go find his killers, because it was like a father figure to them. And it is a crazy, crazy movie. All the characters are memorable, likable. You remember every single one of them. There's not a wasted character. There's not a wasted scene. The dialogue is fucking amazing. It's just a batshit fucking Western that I cannot believe has this low of a Rotten Tomatoes score. It does not deserve it. It has a 41% with only 37 reviews. And it came out in 1988. And it's got Charlie Sheen in it as well, which is crazy. But the audience score is a little bit better. It's got a 76% with 50,000 ratings. My dad showed me this movie when I was younger. We watched it maybe once, twice a year for like every year. I fucking love this movie. This is one of my favorite Westerns. it is so insane. Like, it's so fun to watch. It's just an entertaining Western. And, I mean, these characters are some of just the best, like, characters in Westerns that I remember, you know. And Emilio Estevez as Billy the Kid is perfect. Like, he just plays it so well. And so, yeah, I'm very livid about this Rotten Tomatoes score.
No, that movie sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I want to visit it.
Please do. Yeah. Please do. It's a great movie. But yeah, I don't get it. I mean, the critics' consensus reads, Young Guns rounds up a posse of attractive young leads, but this cheerfully shallow brat pack Western ultimately has too much hat and not enough cattle. What does that even fucking mean? I don't even know. That's just a shallow-ass critic consensus as well. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, man. I think, it's got, you know, Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen. There's another big one in there. Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, nice.
And so, there's a lot of, you know, and Lou Diamond Phillips as well. There's a lot of, basically, you know, all the women like to see, you know, we like to see our, you know, young leads, like the Brad Pitts and the Matt Damon, like that kind of thing. But
in that generation, they were very hot.
Oh, yeah. These were the big guys. But I don't know, like, I feel there's more to it than just the star power in it. Which maybe that's what people can't look past. They just see all the stars and they just think it's like a cash grab or something. But no, I really like it. So, what's your next one though?
Oh, this one was probably the most surprising one for me to learn about. I saw Spaceballs, and well, maybe we have another Sandlot situation on our hands, because I simply can't believe that this movie has a negative Rotten Tomatoes score.
Let's see. I've never seen. Oh, it does.
Spaceballs. Yeah, Spaceballs is sitting on Rotten Tomatoes with a 56%. And let me tell you something. Mel Brooks is one of the greatest satirists of all time. His movies are, you know, not always incredible, but like he is one of the most consistent like comedy forces out there. And Spaceballs is one of his best. It's probably my favorite of all of his movies, probably because I was exposed to it at such a young age. And it's got a really great take on Star Wars, on sci-fi, on like sequel culture in general. It's kind of ahead of its time in that way because it riffs on like multi-million-dollar franchises making money off of like merchandising and endless sequels, and it was made in the 80s, like in a time where we didn't even have like the crazy amount of like sequels and merchandising that we have today. Like, I mean, if he thought that people were getting creatively bankrupt in the 1980s, I mean, like I wonder how he feels today, you know, looking at everything now. I feel like this is such a surprise, you know, to a lot of people, because Spaceballs, I feel like, usually gets brought up in pretty high regard. I mean, it was enough of a classic movie that it got a pretty terrible animated spin-off series in the late 2000s. So, I don't know. Like, this one just snuck up on me. I was like, holy shit, that there was no way. And I'm looking at it still, and I can't believe it. Only 43 critic reviews again.
At a 56%.
At a 56%, and this is what people are going to see of it, you know. And this is strange because, I mean, Mel Brooks' other movies, like Blazing Saddles, has like a stark like 78% or something, you know, actually representative of like his quality of work. And I mean, Young Frankenstein has another really high score. It's just strange to see like movies ahead of their time like this. They'll forever be marked by the reviews that came out at the time about them that, you know, didn't get them. Like movies that took risks and movies that, you know, genuinely are clever and still have relevance today are relegated to what critics in the 1980s thought of it. And that's fucking insane.
What's crazy is I was just thinking, like, you know, there's a bunch of like older movies like in the 40s, 30s through the 50s and even in the 60s that critics hated when they came out, but now they're beloved. And I feel like most of those movies, the Rotten Tomatoes scores reflect that. But now that we have the internet, I don't feel like a lot of scores for movies that come out today will change in 20 to 30 years. You know,
no.
You know, that's set for life now because the internet's, you know, a permanent thing until it's not. But
until we're gone.
But, you know, now that we have an internet on the internet a system where you can go and look at all this stuff that's forever logged, how many people are going to go back and change their opinions, you know?
Yeah.
For like, that's going to be forever tainted.
Yeah, and good luck like digging up like all of the critics who are like who were old at the time and now fucking dead. It's like, why does their opinion like forever mark this shit? You know, like we don't exactly read like what Socrates thought of like you know, the tragic plays of the time. I mean, like it kind of matters, but like typically we rely on modern, you know, scholars and critics to tell us what to think of those classic works, and it's weird to see that movies don't get that same luxury as other arts, you know? Like, we do depend on, like, the old blood and the old opinions on those things. In terms of, like, websites and movie scoring systems, like, just the critics at the time will have forever dominion because of the internet. You know? And that's, that's fucking insane.
Yeah.
I mean, we might just be repeating ourselves here, but I feel like it's relevant. Every movie that we search up. And speaking of which, what's your next pick?
So I believe...
I think you might be on the wrong side of history.
I might be on the wrong side of history, but I have a point with this.
Okay.
Okay. So, one of my favorite creature features is Anaconda, 1997 with... Y'all gotta listen to this cast. I think I've said it before, but it kills me every fucking time. We got Ice Cube, John Voight, Jennifer Lopez, Eric Stoltz, and even I believe Owen Wilson is in this movie as well. Yes, Owen Wilson is in the movie. Okay, this is crazy. No, it's not the best movie ever, and no, the effects aren't crazy good for '97. But I mean, come on, like, it's a creature feature. I feel like one of the things that bugs me about Rotten Tomatoes is I feel like they have a system where they rate every movie accordingly, or not accordingly to, they don't take into consideration genre, they don't take into consideration like any like kind of budget restrictions. They just, they slap it with, whatever the fuck they feel like. And you could say I'm in the wrong because the audience scores at 24% with 250,000 plus ratings. But I feel like this movie has just got a lot to like and enjoy about it. And for 51 critic reviews sitting at a 37%. And 97, you can get more critics to review this, especially now. You can go back and look at it and look at all the people that were in it. I just feel like something special about this movie that people are just glossing over, and especially because it's a creature feature. Like those are especially shit on. Everybody holds up creature movies to the level of Jaws.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad standard, but still, like, these movies, they don't get huge budgets, but Anaconda did something kind of fucking crazy, in which, it spawned a series. Like, there's 5 of these fucking movies. Like, yeah, a couple of them went to the Sci-Fi Channel, but the fact that they kept putting money into it, there was something about the original that was there, but, I don't know, pretty shit on, pretty... Makes me sad, and I might be wrong. Maybe if y'all seen Anaconda, sound off in the comments or on Twitter. Actually, if you've seen any of these movies we're talking about, we want to hear your opinions.
Yeah.
But yeah, Anaconda just makes me mad because it's. I feel like it's a unique kind of movie, and it's absolutely just not given any love whatsoever. Even though it spawned a whole franchise, and it's got Ice Cube. Yeah, Owen Wilson. Like, I just think that's crazy. But
I feel like this is a good talking point for like how not only Rotten Tomatoes but like critic reviews being a wall for people to watch movies limits horror especially and also comedy because I think that those are very subjective genres.
Yes,
like what works for people will not be universal. People aren't scared of the same shit. People don't laugh at the same jokes.
Yeah.
And to have a comedy website where to have a review website tell you, like, oh, this movie is scary or oh, this movie is funny, and to lay out how you should feel about it before you even get the chance to watch it. Like, it's not going to be accurate for how you might feel about it. I think there are a lot of I don't want to get into the opposite end of the spectrum here, but like I think there are a lot of 80s comedy movies that are very beloved and sit at a very high score. I'm mainly thinking of Caddyshack right now. that are horribly dated. Like, they might have been the groundbreaking comedy of the time, but, like, go back and rewatch, like, Caddyshack or Animal House or any of these movies. And I might get a lot of shit for saying this because these are very beloved movies.
Right.
But they are so fucking dated. And, I mean, it just doesn't work as well as it might have worked back then. I mean, like, the stars and the writing talent of the time is probably undeniable. But that's the thing, is, like, the opinion of those older folks have prevented these movies from like changing in the view of the public like now. And I think that especially with horror movies, there's just a ridiculous like wall you have to jump over. Like you have to be super exceptional to get any kind of critical like darling attention. And I mean Silence of the Lambs is like the only one that's done it, and that's more like thriller than like horror,
It's that you mentioned the comedy. That you mentioned the comedy movies, the older ones, even the ones from the 50s. Like, I've seen very few comedies from, like, 40s and 50s, even some of the 60s that I think are funny. It's just comedy changes. Mm-hmm. And I think so does horror. I think that's why it's so, the critic ratings on those movies are so hard to gauge, because like you said, what was funny back then is not funny today, and I think also what was scary back then is not scary today. Like Rosemary's Baby, undeniably horrifying in the 60s. Even me watching the movies, I'm like, oh, that's kind of scary. But today, you can't make Rosemary's Baby. It's just not. People kind of laugh at that now. That's just not something that's scary. That was kind of the satanic panic days, But now, horror movies, what we find scary is like Midsummer. Mm-hmm. It's a breakup movie about mental health, but it's also, got, the gore, like I guess it is sort of like a cult, but it's not really the satanic panic kind of thing. It's more like you go alone somewhere and you're killed. But
and who's to say what movies now will be considered classics later? And like, why should we tell the next generation like, oh, this is the shit? Like, I challenge people, especially like, unless you grew up with certain movies, like, go back and watch like the Boris Karloff like Frankenstein movies and like try and sit through those like from a modern perspective. I think you're gonna have a hard time. Mm-hmm. And speaking of which, I think that some movies that are classics, or some of my I'm gonna stop cutting around the shit.
No, you're good.
One of my favorite movies ever has a Rotten Tomato score. And it's crazy because this director is a critical darling, and that is Wes Anderson. I think every other movie that Wes Anderson has made has a positive score. Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, Royal Tenenbaums, Darjeeling Limited, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Moonrise Kingdom, Grand Budapest Hotel, even Isle of Dogs. They all have positive scores. My favorite, though, is sitting at a 56%. With 225 reviews, The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. In my opinion, this is Wes Anderson's masterpiece. This is his magnum opus. I love that movie so fucking much. The soundtrack, the look, like the David Bowie covers in it, like, it's all so fucking good. And you have to tell me that people, have to like refer to like an audience score or like word of mouth to know that it's a good movie. They can't just like go if they look it up, they're gonna see a bad score, and that breaks my fucking heart, because this is one of my favorites, and I think that most people who watch it will probably like it. And it's
I liked it. You told me to watch it and I loved it.
Fantastic. See? and that's the thing I hate, is that critics from 2004 will forever determine that this was not the direction. And this case is particularly upsetting because most of the critics who reviewed it negatively seemed to not like it because it wasn't the Royal Tenenbaums Part 2. It's because it was a kind of a jarring shift from that setting and that tone. It's like more comedic. It's a bit more out there with its setting and characters. Like, it's a Jacques Cousteau rip-off guy. That's the main character of the movie. It's not a dysfunctional... I mean, there's dysfunctional relationships in the movie. There's all of the Wes Anderson staples. But at the time, critics thought, this is a bit of a dud. This is a misdirection, and I think that's so fucking cringe-inducing that, like, that's the stain that it has to wear now. It has that rotten splat forever. And I'm like, that's like top 3 movies of all time for me. Yeah. Really, it is. I love that movie so fucking much. I can't stand this Rotten Tomato score in general. And I posted about it on Twitter. I was like, make it make sense. Yeah. It's never made sense to me.
No, me neither, honestly. Because I remember I watched it and I thought, hey, this is pretty good. I like this. Mm-hmm. But I can see probably why critics didn't like it. Because, like you said, they were wanting Royal Tenenbaums Part 2. They were wanting I feel like this is the most different movie that Wes Anderson has done. Because it's not like everything else he's done. It's got a lot of his trademarks, like you said, but... It is different, but also that's kind of why I like it. It's very different. And Bill Murray, love that man. God bless that man. Yeah, love. I like this movie a lot. I really do. And I'm very surprised at this abysmal fucking score from Rotten Tomatoes.
Thank you, Casey. It means a lot. Your thoughts and prayers.
Well, I don't have any more to talk about. I wrote down my couple that I think are truly egregious. So
I think
we got some good replies too as well.
Yeah, and I think we touched on a lot of what's wrong with Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. I think maybe we can just end the episode by mentioning that Ant-Man and the Wasp has an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. Thor: The Dark World has a 64%.
Yeah.
And compare it to some of the movies you've heard that have a rotten score, and maybe 20 years from now, if this podcast is still on the internet somehow and you can go back and listen to it, were we right? Or were the movies that we talked about classics, or were those,
were those faded to oblivion?
Damn. Getting existential up in here.
Right? Well, we've enjoyed your presence today, audience.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for your responses and for your topic selection. We hope to always pick topics that you want to hear, and I mean, if you want, we can post another poll of topics. Let us know.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Always suggest if you feel like it, like even if it's just the most random shit.
Oh yeah, always suggest this ideas because more than likely we'll try it because we just like doing this. We want to do what you want to. We want to talk about what you want to hear, as long as it's about movies. We're a movie podcast, but yeah, that's the only limitation. I mean, go crazy.
We might actually watch some movies next week.
Yeah, sorry.
We might feel like it.
I just remembered I did watch Spider-Man.
The Raimi?
Yeah, after we recorded that last time, I watched it. Me and Donna did, and we were just like, this fucking slaps. Like, it is a little bit dated in some areas, but I mean, my God, I still love this. So,
that's fantastic to hear, man. Yeah, we came to the same conclusion. It sounds like. I can't wait for you to see Spider-Man 2 again.
I know. That's what I want to watch.
That one's especially fucking great.
Yeah. Remember to massage your feet and eat meat.
Anyway, here's kisses. Bye bye.